My wife took a loan. In my name then left. So I fought legally, cleared my name, took the house. And now she lives with her parents again. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and I used to think love meant sharing everything, even the hard stuff. When I met Sabrina, I was 26, working long shifts in IT support while finishing night school. She was 2 years younger, sharp-tongued in meetings, but soft-spoken in private. We met at a networking event, both trying to climb out of our early career trenches. What drew me in wasn't just her ambition, it was how she talked about building a future with someone, not just for herself. I was hooked. She moved in after a year. We split bills, shared chores, meal prepped every Sunday, and binge-watched trash TV on weeknights. We joked about our future kids being mini CEOs. On paper, it looked like teamwork. On the surface, it felt like love. But every time the topic of money came up, Sabrina would gently shut it down. "I've got it handled," she'd say, tapping her temple like she was some financial wizard. You wouldn't understand the strategy behind it. When I offered to manage a joint spreadsheet, she laughed. "Let's not kill the romance with Excel, babe." It didn't feel like a big deal at first. Some people just like control, right? She was the one who negotiated our rent, handled insurance renewals, even filed our joint taxes. I figured if she's good at it, why fight it? Still, there were moments, like when she intercepted the mail every day, saying she hated clutter, or when she refused to let me see our savings account, claiming it would just stress me out. I ignored the knots in my stomach because everything else felt solid, loving, safe. But looking back now, that trust I gave her, it was the foundation she quietly used to bury me later, and I didn't even realize I was sinking. About a year into our marriage, Sabrina started talking obsessively about buying a home. "We're wasting money renting," she said one night, tossing Zillow listings onto my lap. "This is the next step if we're serious about our future." I agreed in theory. Who doesn't want stability, equity, roots? But deep down, I felt unready. Our savings were thin, and my credit was okay but not stellar. Sabrina, of course, had a plan. "Let's apply in your name." "My credit still has that old hospital bill hanging over it," she said, shrugging like it was no big deal. "But I'll handle the mortgage payments. You know I'm good with money." Something about that didn't sit right. But she said it with such confidence, like she'd thought it all through. "You trust me, right?" she added, slipping her hand into mine. And I did. We found a modest 2-bedroom on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, but the kind of place you imagine raising kids in. Sabrina handled most of the paperwork. I signed what she told me to sign. She said she worked out a great deal with the bank and that she was putting in some of her personal savings to reduce the monthly cost. I barely looked at the documents. "I hate admitting that now." She said, "Don't overthink it. We're a team." And I let myself believe that meant we were safe. After we moved in, she dove headfirst into renovations. New countertops. Custom lighting. She even hired a designer for the guest room. "Isn't this a bit much right now?" I asked once, holding up a $4,000 invoice. She waved it off. "Don't worry, these are investments. And I'm covering most of it." And again, I let it go. I didn't realize she was building a dream life with materials bought in my name. And one day, that dream would start billing me directly. The first real crack came on a Tuesday. I was home early from work and caught a delivery guy wheeling in a box labeled Peloton. "Did you order this?" I asked Sabrina when she walked in later. "Oh, yeah," she said casually, tossing her keys onto the counter. "Got it on a no-interest payment plan. It's practically free." That word, practically, sat in my gut like a stone. I started noticing more packages. Weighted blankets, designer shoes, even a sound system we didn't need. Each time I asked, she shrugged it off. "I budgeted for it. It's on promo. You're being paranoid." When I pressed for details, how much we owed, what our monthly burn rate was, she got defensive. "Why do you suddenly care so much about money? I thought you trusted me." I did. Or maybe I just didn't want to admit I didn't. She kept brushing me off, telling me I wouldn't understand the way credit works or that I was being too anxious about normal adult stuff, but things didn't feel normal. She took over our mail completely, claimed she wanted to avoid clutter, but it meant I didn't see a single bill. Our shared budgeting app? She couldn't get it to sync anymore. I'd ask, "Can I just see the accounts?" And she'd respond with a tired sigh or a quick kiss on the cheek and say, "You're better off not stressing about the details." The weird thing was, I still wanted to believe her, that maybe I was the one overthinking, that maybe I was just raised differently around money, but I started waking up at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding, lying in bed next to her, wondering what else I didn't know. I couldn't name it yet. But the house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a very expensive secret. It was a Wednesday afternoon when my phone rang at work. "A number I didn't recognize, Mr. Carver?" the voice asked. "This is just a courtesy call regarding your delinquent personal loan." I blinked. "What loan?" "The $60,000 loan you took out through Everfield Lending. You're 45 days past due." My stomach dropped so fast I felt physically dizzy. "That's impossible. I never took out a loan." The man paused. "Sir, this loan was opened under your name, your SSN, your address. We have the application and the payment history. Would you like a copy emailed to you?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded, then gave him my work email like a robot. Within minutes, I was staring at a PDF with my full name, signature, and financial details I never gave anyone. The signature looked like mine, but off, like someone had practiced it just enough. When I got home that night, I held up the paper. "What the hell is this, Sabrina?" She barely flinched. "Oh, that? Yeah, I meant to talk to you about it." "You took out a loan in my name?" She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic. "I needed capital for the renovations, and your credit score was better than mine." I couldn't believe it. "You forged my signature. You committed fraud," she raised her voice. "I did it for us. You think this house just magically paid for itself? You wanted this lifestyle too, remember?" I couldn't breathe. I trusted her with everything, and she used that trust like a weapon. I remember sitting on the edge of the bed that night, hands shaking. And for the first time in years, I realized I didn't actually know the woman I married, and now I was in debt for a life I never agreed to. The next morning, I was in a lawyer's office before the coffee in my system even kicked in. I laid everything out: the forged loan, the fake signature, the missing paperwork. The attorney listened quietly, then said words that made my stomach twist. "Technically, you're liable. It's in your name. Even if she forged it, until proven otherwise, it's your debt." I felt like I was underwater, but she admitted to it. "Isn't that enough?" He shook his head. "Not in the eyes of the loan company. You'll need to press charges, open a fraud investigation, gather every scrap of evidence. This won't be quick or clean." When I confronted Sabrina that night, she was in the middle of folding laundry. "Are you seriously dragging lawyers into this now?" I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there and said, "You committed fraud, Sabrina." She slammed the dryer door. "I did it for us. You're acting like I'm some stranger on the street." "You are," I whispered. "At least strangers don't ruin my life pretending it's love." She changed tactics fast. The yelling stopped. She looked me straight in the eye, suddenly calm, manipulative. "You're going to throw away everything over this? One mistake? One mistake?" I said, laughing bitterly. "You forged my signature and ran up a $60,000 debt. That's not a mistake. That's a scheme." She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just walked into the bedroom and locked the door. That night, I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, every shadow feeling like a threat. Half of me wanted to scream. The other half still wanted to believe she'd fix it somehow, but deep down, I knew the only way out was through her lies, and the fight was just beginning. I came home from work 2 days later and found the front door wide open. At first, I panicked, thought we'd been robbed. But as I stepped inside, I noticed something worse. Her shoes were gone. So was her closet. Drawers half open, jewelry boxes missing. The TV, the espresso machine, even the framed wedding photo from the hallway, gone. On the kitchen counter was a single folded note. "I need space. Please don't contact me. You're making this harder than it needs to be." She didn't even sign it. I stood in the middle of that empty living room, barely able to process it. The silence was so loud. I kept thinking maybe it was a joke, a test, some kind of mind game. But no. Sabrina had left me before I could leave her. The worst part? She took the narrative with her. Within days, mutual friends started texting me weird things. "Heard you lost it on her. Why didn't you just support her business?" One even said, "She said you were controlling." I couldn't believe it. She had spun the story like I was the abuser. that I'd driven her out, that she was the poor wife who just wanted to build a life and got financially strangled by her paranoid husband. Meanwhile, loan collectors were still calling me daily. My credit score tanked 80 points in a week. I was barely sleeping, barely eating, and she was out there, posting filtered brunch pics, writing captions like starting, fresh, healing, growing. She wasn't healing, she was hiding, and I was left, cleaning up the mess she left in both the house and my name, but I wasn't going to let her vanish like a ghost. Not when she'd turned me into the villain of her escape story. There's a kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it crawls into your chest and sits there. That's what the house felt like after she left. Her perfume still lingered in the hallway. There was a coffee mug she forgot on the window ledge. And every time I passed the bedroom, I flinched like I'd been slapped. I stopped inviting people over. What would I even say? Hey, come see the house my wife abandoned after stealing my identity? My friends drifted. Not out of cruelty, just discomfort. Most didn't know what to say. A few believed her version or said, there's two sides to every story. Even my own brother asked, you sure you're not exaggerating? And the debt. God, the debt. Collection letters stacked like bricks in the mailbox. I tried calling the loan company again, explaining the situation, forwarding emails, even sharing the note she left. They didn't care. Until a court says otherwise, you're the borrower. I missed a mortgage payment. Then another. My credit card was maxed trying to keep the lights on. At work, I was passed up for a promotion I'd been promised. The manager pulled me aside. Your financial background came up in our routine checks. Sorry, man. It's not personal. Everything felt personal. One night, I sat on the kitchen floor surrounded by unopened bills, staring at the oven clock blinking 12:00. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't talked to another human in 2. I remember whispering to myself, she really broke me. And for the first time, I believed it. This wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about being erased, gaslit, made to feel like a fool for loving someone who saw that love as leverage, but I wasn't done. Not. Yet, the shift didn't happen all at once. It started with a drawer. I was looking for an old tax return in the filing cabinet we rarely used. That's when I saw it, wedged behind a stack of manuals, a manila folder with my name on it. Inside were loan statements, bank records, a rejected credit application I never filled out. My hands trembled as I flipped through them, every document linked to my name, but not my signature. One page had the signature she used to forge mine. It looked just real enough to pass, but when you studied it, it was too neat. Too smooth. Like she practiced it, I dug deeper. My laptop still had access to her cloud drive. She must have forgotten to log out. In one folder labeled House Projects, I found a PDF with an e-signature service she'd used to push through the Everfield loan, complete with an IP address log. It showed her email, her device. Her IP, she didn't just mess up. She documented her own crime. I printed everything. Every single file. Slipped it into a new folder labeled Evidence. Then I called my lawyer. When I walked into his office the next morning and laid the papers on the desk, he raised his eyebrows. Well, he said slowly, this changes everything. We filed for fraud. Officially. He contacted the loan company and submitted the documents. The case was reopened. The account was frozen. Collections paused. For the first time in months, I exhaled. Not because I was free, far from it, but because now I wasn't drowning alone. Sabrina had forged my name, stolen my trust and set fire to my future. But now, I had something she didn't, proof, and soon, the lies she'd built would start to crumble under the weight of it. The first hearing was surreal. I sat in a courtroom across from the woman I once imagined growing old with, now cold, unreadable, dressed like she was at a job interview. Sabrina didn't even glance at me. She had a lawyer. Of course, some smug guy who called the loan a marital misunderstanding. He claimed I was just bitter over a failed relationship. But when my attorney laid out the evidence, IP logs, forged documents, even bank transfers to her secret account, the tone in the room shifted, and then came the twist I wasn't expecting, a witness. One of her old friends, Jessica, came forward. She'd been silent for months, but apparently Sabrina burned that bridge too. She testified that Sabrina used to brag about leveraging my good credit. She said it was smart, Jessica explained. She called it strategic love. That phrase hit me like a slap. Strategic love. The judge ordered a forensic document analyst to review the signatures. The case was moved forward as a fraud investigation. That night, I got a message from Sabrina. Not an apology, not a confession. Just a single sentence. You didn't have to make this ugly. Ugly? She drained my credit, disappeared, and left me in ruins, and now I was the one making things ugly. It was the clearest she'd ever been. This was never about love. It was always about what I could offer, and what she thought I was too soft to fight for. But I wasn't soft anymore. The legal process was slow. Painfully slow. But every court date chipped away at the false narrative she'd wrapped herself in, and with each document admitted, with each statement read aloud, I felt the truth growing louder. She had built a paper empire on lies, and I was finally learning how to burn it down, one fact at a time. The final ruling came down 6 months after the investigation began. I was sitting in that same courtroom, nerves coiled so tight I could feel my heartbeat in my teeth. My lawyer placed a hand on my shoulder. It's solid, he whispered. She buried herself. The judge didn't take long. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple forged documents, digital proof of impersonation, and witness testimony that painted the full picture. The court recognizes this loan as fraudulent, the judge declared. The burden of repayment is removed from Mr. Carver. Everfield Lending may pursue civil action against the perpetrator, Ms. Sabrina Carver. Just like that, 60,000 pounds of pressure lifted from my chest. Then came the part I hadn't even dared hope for, because the mortgage was in my name and only mine, and because her contributions had been undocumented or from the stolen loan, the judge ruled the house as solely mine. Sabrina's face fell. She looked at her lawyer, stunned. Wait, what? Her voice cracked, softer than I'd ever heard it. I gave everything to that house. I didn't say a word. I just watched her try to compute the reality. She had not only lost the money, but the one asset she thought she controlled. She texted me later that night. We built that home together. You know that. Please don't erase me. I stared at the message for a while. Then typed, you erased yourself the moment you forged my name. And I hit send. No threats. No rage, just the truth. The next day, she filed an appeal. It was denied. The house was officially mine. The loan was wiped from my credit. And for the first time in a year, I felt like I was standing on solid ground. But her story wasn't over yet, because now she had to start answering questions. Sabrina's downfall didn't happen all at once. It started quietly. Whispers in the group chats we used to share, people unfollowing her on socials, mutual friends suddenly going dark. Then came the fallout. Everfield filed a civil suit against her for the unpaid balance of the loan. Her wages were garnished. Her bank account was frozen pending investigation. I found out through public records that she tried applying for a personal bankruptcy claim. It was denied. With nowhere else to go, she moved back in with her parents. The same people who once called me soft and told her she deserved someone more ambitious. Now their daughter was jobless, legally exposed, and publicly humiliated. I never gloated, never posted about it, but I saw everything. She switched her Instagram to private, deleted old pictures, posted vague quotes like, "Sometimes we lose everything to find ourselves." No one was buying it anymore. People she manipulated were starting to piece it together, especially after Jessica, the witness from court, wrote a long Facebook post about what Sabrina had done. The comments were brutal. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. But I read every word, and at home, I walked through the now quiet house. It felt lighter, cleaner, like it could finally breathe without her chaos inside it. I had the locks changed, repainted the walls, even started putting furniture back in the guest room she once redesigned for her business clients. I was rebuilding, not just my finances, but myself. And every time the doorbell rang without dread, or a letter came without red ink, I reminded myself, this is mine now. She built her life on a lie. And when that lie cracked, everything she stood on fell with it. And me? I was finally standing again. I stood in the doorway of the living room, sunlight pouring through the windows, the kind of quiet that doesn't ache anymore. The same room where I once lay surrounded by unopened bills, by betrayal I couldn't name. Now, there's a bookshelf where the debt notices used to be, a coffee table I built with my own hands, a plant I haven't managed to kill yet. This house was supposed to be a shared dream. Then it became a prison. Now, it's my armor. People ask if I ever heard from her again. Just once. She sent a voicemail months later, her voice soft, defeated. She didn't ask for money or forgiveness. She just said, I don't know who I am without all of it. I didn't mean to lose everything. I listened to it once, then deleted it. Because I know who I am now. I'm the guy who loved too hard, who trusted too much, and who paid the price for both. But I'm also the guy who fought back, who refused to let lies define his story. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully. I talk more. I ask questions. I check the mail. Sometimes I still get nervous when the phone rings. Trauma lingers in strange places, but I've learned this. Forgiveness doesn't mean access. Closure doesn't require conversation and love. Real love doesn't ask you to sign blind. There's a framed quote above my kitchen sink now. It says, build something no one can take from you. I look at it every morning. While making coffee. While cleaning the dishes she used to ignore. While living a life that no longer belongs to anyone else. This story didn't end the way I thought it would, but sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't fire, it's silence and peace.